Good morning, everyone. Oh, it's a packed room already at almost 9 o'clock. I'm impressed. Apparently no one had a late night. Anyone else hurting this morning? I know so many dinners were happening last night. I know there were conversations based on what we heard yesterday, and I'm sure you're thrilled to be here bright and early, but it's worth it, even though you may need another cup of coffee. By the way, grab a cup of coffee, get yourself seated. We're in for an amazing ride. My name is Gela Boshkovich. I work with a company called Rainmaking Innovation. We focus on collaboration between scale-ups, emerging technology, and actual financial institutions, corporates. And I have spent the last 2 weeks sitting in pilot design sessions as part of our new program called Collab, which is really focused on how do we get to commercial collaboration as quickly as possible. Rainmaking is also the parent company of Startup Bootcamp, the accelerator. You may be familiar with it. I've been involved in the fintech industry before it was a hashtag. I don't want to reveal my age, but I have matured into it and have the fortunate position of seeing all sorts of different business model evolutions, different types of solutions across the entire industry, from retail to CIB to asset management. And I'm going to throw in blockchain if we're doing bingo. Apparently, I actually know something about blockchain. I don't believe that. I pretend to. But from tokenization and payments to asset management to crypto to AI, alternative finance, all of those things are part of my daily diet. And I'm really excited to talk about how those can converge in terms of instant and mobile payments. And then later on, we'll also be assessing the fintech collaboration model and what's really needed to move the industry forward, especially at a time when payments, wherever you are in the value chain, have diminishing marginal returns. And we're being squeezed into OpEx optimization. So really, really fortunate to have a number of distinguished speakers this morning that we will be moving into very, very quickly. And it's my pleasure to have the honor of actually helping the conversation get to you and be with you. And I ask that you also participate. There will be time for questions. Hopefully there'll be time for questions after each of the speakers, after they present. And we'll take questions during the panel discussion as well. But I am going to reserve the right to give you free access to the panelists afterwards. Corner them, find them, challenge them, debate them, and most of all, put it out on Twitter and put this out into the public sphere, because the reason why we gather in conferences like this is to ensure that we have debate, discussion, and challenge the assumptions that we have been taking with us to find a new way to actually deliver service, value, and find a way to make a little bit of commercial to sustain something that fundamentally underlines our entire lives, which is the ability to transact with others. Irrespective of it being oriented with money or payments, it is our ability to transact with one another, and smoothing that to have a real-time satisfaction for whatever that transaction is truly important. So thank you for indulging me for a little bit of a spiel. But I want to remind you of a little bit of housekeeping, and this may get uncomfortable for some of the speakers because I'm absolutely brutal when it comes to timekeeping. If I happen to tap somebody on the shoulder, it's because they've taken their time up and we get to move on to the next conversation. But in show business, you always want to leave them wanting more. So if we get interrupted, fantastic. Again, corner the speakers. But we'll hope for a lively debate. I ask that all of you challenge the assumptions, again, that we present to you, that you participate as much as you can through social, and we'll take the time to actually answer some of the questions that you have during the course of the day. So first and foremost, instant mobile and alternative payment acceptance. Real-time, instant self-gratification. Isn't that what life's about now? Right? Even in payments? I see a nod from the audience. Exactly. When I want it now. Well, hopefully you want the conversation around instant payments and access right now. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker of the day. Jean-Philippe Joluveau is actually with SIA. He has spent the last 10 years focused specifically on payments with SIA. But when instant payments came, this is what he has been focusing on for the last couple of years. But he has a background in the mechanical engineering and understands payments from the very, very basic engineering, and has been doing it for,
And yeah,
did I say it? over a quarter of a decade.
Yes, absolutely. Century? That was mechanical engineering, actually. So that's
Thank you.
Thank you. Well, good morning, everybody. Thank you for coming, and I'm very glad to have this presentation and participate to this panel today. I'm very, very happy to see what is being said during this conference, and I will have this the very quick slides about digital payments, and the question is, are they converging? So I'm a card guy. I've always worked in the card business, and as Gelo said, it's only recently that I've been working on and looking at instant payment. So the question is, are we sure? How is instant payment putting themselves in the payment business? So what we can say, first of all, some words about my company. So we believe at SIA that we are at the heart of digital payment. And that's because you can see we process 47 billion transactions a year, and that's 15 billion only in the payment business. So we are a card processing company, but not only. We also process a lot of payment transactions, and that includes in Germany, because we are in Berlin, that includes a big part of the transaction of the clearing and settlement transaction for the local domestic scheme gyro cards with the SEPA card clearing model. We also think that we need to offer a one-stop shop for all payments, because we propose solutions and services for the cards, we propose solutions and services for the payments, but we also have a very important connectivity business where we think that to have an end-to-end processing of a transaction, you also need to focus on the connection, on the connectivity networks, and that is quite important, especially if we are talking about instant payment, because if we don't have a really efficient network, you cannot process an instant payment. It risks not being processed in the right time, and the consumer will be upset, which is what we don't want, obviously, to do. Evolutions of payments, because when I said, are they converging, or also how are they going to impact on each other? Payments are growing digital. There is a very, very big growth, more outside Europe than in Europe, but also in Europe anyway. But if you look at the situation in Germany or in Italy, for instance, you have most of your payments are done with cash. They're not at all digital. So my belief is this is where we need to look at improving the share of payments that will be done digitally. So that's where, I mean, card payment is already there. Instant payment is coming. We believe that cash will be taken. Cash payment will be taken by instant payment. Not really the replacement of card payment, but we'll talk about that later. What is happening also on the market? We have a reshaping of the landscape. And that is done because technology is moving. We all know that. We've got the mobile, and we are talking a lot about how to initiate payments from a smartphone. We have regulations. We've got PSD2 that arrived. That was put into law on the 13th of January. So this is something new that will open. We don't really know yet how they will become this. What will really happen with PSD2? But something will necessarily happen. And we have competition with new actors, and some of you are part of companies that are moving very quickly into these areas and putting out new products. And so that's what's happening. And we have also, there was an interesting presentation yesterday and an interesting debate about mergers and acquisition. If you see, more than $20 billion of mergers and acquisitions in Europe alone last year. So that's reshaping the market a lot, and I'm not sure that I will still work for the same company next year, because who knows, we merge with somebody else. PSD2, so taking one of the elements that is reshaping the market, PSD2 gives an opportunity. So we will have the possibility for companies to become a third-party provider and give services, payment services, to their consumers, to their users. And that's the first service which is, I mean, one of the most important part of PSD2 is the access to account. So banks have, or PSPs, have to open their accounts to third party. But that's not only that. I mean, if we stick to that, I think we lose great opportunities, because you can have new white label services to put on that and use and associate with the access to account, either for information or for payment, to add new services on top of that. And also value-added services that could help the customer, but you could have also the third-party provider process better payments or services for their consumers. Now, instant payment. Instant payment is recent in Europe. Some countries have had instant payment for a long time. I think about Japan, since the 1970s. But in SEPA, it began last year on the 21st of November. And we are very proud to have put these 18 banking groups from 9 countries in this new adventure, because we are processing the platform for EBA clearing, so SCT INS for EBA clearing run in our systems. And this is not limited to SCT INS, because we plan in the future to process other types of instant payments. I mean, the European Central Bank is going to roll out tips at the end of the year, so we will be part also of this adventure. So now we've got an infrastructure. We are able to send an instant payment from one bank to the other. So we need to exploit it. How do we exploit it? We said, are digital payment converging? Well, let's try to have a comparison between the debit card and instant payment. So the debit card, what is it? It's a four corners model. You've got the acquirer, you've got a scheme, you've got the merchant, you've got the acquirer, and through a scheme you've got the issuer and the consumer, four corners. That is started by, the transaction is started by a card. That can be, it's not necessarily a plastic card, it can be also a card on a mobile. The important thing is, the way it is started is for a card payment, or it can be started from the web. And the authorization mode is in pull mode. So the merchant asks the consumer through their bank if they authorize the payment they would like to perform. So, is it user-friendly? I think it is, because, I mean, what could be more user-friendly than a contactless payment? Is it good to use it on a mobile? Not really. It's a bit complicated. There is much work to do to be able to have an efficient payment on a mobile. Is it real-time? Not really, because the authorization is real-time, but the settlement happens in batch mode, so it's later. Does the merchant have real-time funds availability? No. Network acceptance is wide. I mean, if you've got a card which is co-branded with even if it's a domestic card, a card co-branded with an international scheme, you can use it everywhere. What about the merchant service charge? Well, merchants always complain about the merchant service charge, whatever the level. So it's not good, and we should try to find some solution to that. And fraud monitoring has been very, very efficient, because there is much experience in that, and because we worked very, very, very much on fighting fraud on that. Now let's look at pure instant payment. I said we have an infrastructure that is ready, but we don't have anything else. So it's two corners. We've got the merchant and the consumer. The consumer pays on the merchant's account. It's through the home banking, and it's in push mode. the consumer pushes the money towards the account of the merchant. Is it user-friendly? I don't think so. If I have to open my own banking app on my mobile when I'm at the merchant and say, give me your IBAN, and I write the IBAN and I send the money, and I say, can you check if you've got the money on your account? That's not really user-friendly. Is it mobile? Yes, by definition. We said, I can use my home banking from my smartphone. Is it real-time? Yes, absolutely. And do we have the availability? By definition, it's an instant payment, so the merchant gets the money immediately. Network acceptance. I put it halfway because in SEPA, SCT-INS will be widespread, so we will be able to perform instant payments in SEPA quite easily. But not in other countries. I mean, if I go to the United States, there will not be any bridge between SCT-INS and the American instant payment when they develop it. What about the merchant service charge? That's great. There's absolutely no fee for the merchant except their banking fees or the instant payment fee, but there is no merchant service charge as such. And fraud monitoring, nobody is doing anything. Nobody is looking at what you are doing, so fraud could be a problem here. So what we believe is we need to organize. SCT-INS is not enough. We need to organize that. And so we need to have a B2C, business to consumer, instant payment, which is four corners because we've got the merchant. We will have actors working with the merchant. We will have the bank and we will have the consumer. That will be done in push mode because it's an instant payment, but we need a proxy because we need to make it seamless for the customer and they don't have to put their IBANs on that. We need to connect it to the phone number, for instance. So we need a proxy database to do it. So what is the result? It will be user-friendly because we will build it like that. It will be mobile, absolutely. It will be real-time. We will have the real-time availability of funds because it's an instant payment. Network acceptance today is very low because we have a lot of initiatives, but they are local or they are private label for some companies, or we need to organize the interoperability of them. That's one of the biggest problems. And merchant service charge will necessarily be different from zero because organizing a system, an ecosystem, has a cost. Fraud monitoring will have to be developed and will have to be efficient. So in SIA, we designed a platform, an infrastructure, a technology we call Jiffy, which organizes this. So at the point of sale, you can use your phone number on your internet, on your PC, for instance, or you can use NFC if it's an Android smartphone, or you can use a QR code. That's to organize the payment at the merchant. And so the merchant enters the amount, just as they do for the card payment, on the POS. The customer receives the transaction details on their handset within an app. And the customer confirms the transaction. Confirmation and notification are sent to the consumer and to the merchant. So that's the organization. Instant payment then behind the SCT-INS, I said the infrastructure is ready. That will flow automatically between the banks, but we put something on top of the payment. Examples, use cases, fueling. I look for a service station on my app. On the service station, on my app, I choose the pump. Then I receive a push notification with the amount to pay as soon as I refueled, and I confirm the payment, and I can drive out of the station. So that's an example of what we can do. But as you see, we need to organize it because we need the connection with the pumps, we need the connection with the service station. And there is a similar case where the proxy is not the phone number, but it's a license plate. If I pay a parking lot, I will associate my IBAN with my license plate. The parking lot will automatically recognize my license plate, and I will be able to pay on my app, confirming the payment. The instant payment will start, and I can exit. When I exit, they will debit exactly what I want. So for that, as we said, we need to organize an ecosystem. That's something that is complicated, that's complex. We need to navigate the complexity. So since we think we are at the heart of digital payments, because we provide so many services, we believe we can help the ecosystem to be built and participate to this adventure. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Jean-Philippe. Thank you. Thank you.